What's up, Fit Fam? Coach Rye here, and we're going to be breaking down the Pittsburgh Pro Wellness. Very big competition, very exciting competition. It's almost on the kind of caliber of an Olympia, an Arnold Classic, something like that, where it's a big show. It sets the tone for a lot more insight into what the judging is and everything. So I'm going to break down that for you. We're going to talk about placings, what the judges are looking for, the kind of way they're sending us, and why certain athletes have placed certain ways. And we'll go all the way through the top 5 here, and then we're going to work even down to some of the lower call-outs a bit here too, to give you more insight at the end of this video, to what judges maybe don't want to be seeing for all you out there that are competing in wellness. And remember, all the feedback and everything I give you here is relevant pretty much at kind of all levels. The judges want to see the same types of things, even if it's your first show. Doesn't mean you got to look like these competitors, don't get me wrong, but the same criteria, it goes no matter what level you're at. All right, so let's talk first off about our classes here. This is our top 4. Basically the way it went down was Giselle right here. She won it. Cass came in, took 2nd place. We got Lily over here in 3rd, and Tiffany over here in 4th, okay? And this is kind of a very fun call out for me. I actually used to coach 2 of these competitors. Used to coach Lily over here and Tiffany over here, so really great to see how they've advanced in their careers as competitors and got to this level. It's very exciting stuff. Now, Cass, if you guys remember, she's actually the one that won the Arnold Classic. Kind of controversial thing. We did a video about that. We talked about how, that placing could have really come down there too. But I want to talk about this show and, the differences in physiques and what judges are looking at. So wellness, you'll notice all of these ladies here, they're nailing the thing that is what makes the wellness division the wellness division. Across the board, lower body is disproportionately larger than the upper. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't need to have shoulders in wellness. You do. You'll see each athlete in this call out. This is the top 4, by the way, out of 10. They're all have, this shoulder development. You have to have that development. That's going to be the way it is across the board. But what you're going to see also is the lower body is still bigger than whatever they got going on upper body wise. Bigger glutes, bigger hamstrings, quads, all across the board. All right. And conditioning wise, we actually have some variances in that. We're going to get more down to that, but just to remind you the criteria, that's what makes wellness. Wellness is that asymmetry. Okay, so now we're talking about our top 4 here, and this kind of, front pose. We're coming out front pose right here. We're already seeing some indications of where athletes could be placing. Okay, so Lily, for example, she, is overall a much smaller athlete, so she's going to have less muscle kind of, to stand up against some of these taller athletes and things like that. It just basically works that way. When you're in a call out with athletes that are taller than you, usually they're going to carry more muscle, or at least appear to, right? So that can be something that is a little bit harder to pull off size wise, development wise. But she's got a lot of muscle on her frame and she definitely brought the game there. But that's taking her into 3rd place. Tiffany over here, she has a lot of good shape, a lot of good structure. I think she honestly has some muscle groups upper body wise that are too developed. Bicep, tricep look a little bit big to me here, but really what I think she didn't bring home the most was conditioning. There's a lot of shape, a lot of sweep in the quads, all this. The conditioning, though, is, I think, the biggest factor for her placing in that 4th spot. Cass over here does not look how she did at the Arnold. It's everybody was talking about her waist then. I think her waist is kind of an issue here, now, honestly, and that could have put her there. She's still got a great physique, great frame, but she just did not have the muscle structure that Giselle had, which she came with, which is absolutely crazy, honestly. She's got really good cuts in the obliques here. She's got the development of the shoulders, the arms that are in on-point symmetry with that, a nice tapered look, a lot of fullness to the glutes, a lot of fullness to the hamstrings, the quads, and the condition is still there. So overall, I think that's a lot of how we saw these athletes kind of bring down that top placing. But let's look at some more poses before we make that final decision here. And remember, if you're not subscribed to my channel, ladies and gents, I hope you are. I do a lot of these videos and spend a lot of time making these, and my subscriber base is not nearly as big as the amount of people watching these, so it'd be great if you could throw a subscribe up. I appreciate it. Okay, so here's where you get to see some of what I was just talking about. The athletes that are appearing smaller, Lily's on the smaller side of things, still got all the great shape and everything. Take it 3rd, awesome placing for her. Tiffany, a little bit off in the conditioning, I think, and honestly, her quad almost in the sense kind of overpowers the glute. She needs to work this upper glute some more and really bring that fullness through. I think that would help her a lot. And then we look at our top 2, Cass and Giselle here. So Cass, she brought this kind of different physique. This waist is is taking away from her physique though here, just kind of like it did at the Arnold. Everybody kind of talked about it, and you know, I'm seeing that here. And also I think she tried to bring maybe more conditioning in than she needed. She's got some good lines here, but it might have been too much, because obviously, you know, Gisele's conditioning, she's got a lot of muscle, she's got a lot more fullness, but it's also like in the right proportion where we're not getting a lot of splits and cuts like we are over here on Cass. You can see these splits and cuts in here. This could be an indicator to judges this might be too lean, okay? But overall, Gisele, she's taking the cake in this pose. She's taking the cake by a lot in every shot we're gonna see here. And you'll see a lot of fullness to the glute, the upper glute. We talk about this all the time on the channel, and I broke down this stuff in many videos, so if you haven't watched, make sure you watch. But the upper glute is very, very important in this division. If you don't have that upper glute development, really what's gonna happen is, you know, the judges, they're not sitting looking straight on at you, they're sitting below you, and when you do your poses, your back pose, stuff like that, your glutes will flatten out. Very, very important area to focus on no matter what level of competition you're at. And you know, over here, we look over at Cass glute, it's just overall not as developed, we're not getting as much fullness out of it, so I think that's a factor too. You know, we look at the hamstring and the quad, this is in good proportion to that glute shape, because remember, even though wellness is asymmetrical upper to lower, right? The lower body is more dominant than the upper. It does not mean that they don't want to see the lower body still be symmetrical together as the way the quads and, you know, the hamstrings and the glutes all tie in. In other words, you don't want to come out with overdone quads, you know, and not a lot of glute, or, you know, too much glute, not enough hamstring, so on and so forth. You want to make sure you're really training all of these areas and nailing that. And people always ask me about the calves. It's not a huge focus in this division at all. I mean, you know, judges are not really looking at your calves. I've talked with head judge Sandy Williamson before, and she said like that they don't look at heels or anything really that much. Like she said, you could be wearing a colored heel on stage and it wouldn't really matter. What they're really looking at in these divisions is going to be more of, you know, the upper lower, the symmetry, where's the conditioning, what's the criteria, are you hitting the posing, okay? And I also think, to talk about posing, you know, that Tiffany could have done a little bit better with her posing, be a little bit taller over here and really bring that out. And Lily could adjust a few things to kind of square off her shoulders a little bit more to give more of that look. It kind of looks like she angled out to really try to make her waist more narrow, but it takes away from the muscularity that she really needs standing up against taller athletes. So let's go to the back though. We always talk about bodybuilding being one from the back, and it's going to be one from the back again here, as it always is. This is where we really get a clear picture, and this is where I think we get one of the big pieces of what judges are sending us home right now, okay? So let's start, you know, with Tiffany over here. Just kind of roll it down. Tiffany right here is coming in, you know, with a kind of an interesting pose, I think. I think her posing is a little bit off. She could have been a little bit wider in the stance. That would have helped her. And this is where we really get to see, remember I said it looked like her quads overpower the glutes. They really do from this position here. You know, we're getting a lot of quad from the back, which is good. You want to see that sweep, and you're going to see that in every single athlete in this top call out here. But you know, also for her, it's overpowering because she doesn't have that glute development the way she needs. She needs to work that upper glute more. Everybody out there, said upper glute 48 times this video. Be training your upper glute a lot if you are competing in wellness, okay? It really needs to bring that up. Also just bring up overall muscularity. And again, this is where we get to see some lack in the conditioning. You know, we're not getting a lot of ham tie here. She needs to kind of bring up the glutes overall and nail that conditioning. Okay, I think that would help her a lot, and she plays better. Also adjust that posing. Now let's look over here at Lily. Lily's a little bit narrow in my opinion in her pose also. You know, I think she could widen this out, kind of rotate a little bit more. She's getting a good quad sweep, you know, on both of this. But again, here's where we see, like I said for her too, just not having as much muscle. The glutes are just not as developed as they could be to really help her stand up to get more of these top placing, top two in other words, athletes. And also it would help her just overall lower body symmetry a bit. So I think again, you know, glutes are being really hammered home from the judges right now. You need to have the development. Make sure you're in the improvement season long enough to build this muscle. And again, now we're down to our top two. Cass, Gisele. Okay, this is where we see flat out judges are hammering home muscle. We want more muscle and wellness right now. And you know, it's interesting to see because Cass, you know, she won the Arnold, and we got Gisele over here who's got a totally kind of different structure than Cass at this point. And she's winning the Pittsburgh Pro. So very big statement from judges, I think, in the way they're shifting this. It's a lot of muscle, okay? You know, like we talked about Cass when she did the Arnold, and we talked about her quads, talked about how she was carrying all this muscle. She had more muscle than a lot of the athletes at the Arnold too. And, you know, now she's standing up over here against Giselle, and it's looking like she's definitely not holding as much muscle. I mean, this comparison here, this back shot makes her glutes look underdeveloped compared to over here at Giselle. So, I mean, honestly, she really brought this physique. I think she brought it a little too lean, maybe even lost a little bit more muscle since Arnold, and that could be affecting her. But realistically, Giselle is over here just really pushing the envelope on the muscle. And almost in a way you might be like, wow, that's kind of crazy compared to what we've seen before. But remember, these divisions are always adapting. You know, the judges are building the criteria as we go. But okay, let's talk. Giselle's physique is super, super muscular. We got the quad sweep. Judges want to see this. We're seeing it. I'm seeing hamstring development from the back. That's like, we're not seeing that really on anyone else in this call. Maybe just a little bit on Cass, but we're not seeing like fullness, actual hamstring fullness. Tons and tons of glute here to the point where we're getting separation, you know, there. And this upper glute is so hypertrophied. It's just kind of crazy, okay? So the amount of muscle that Giselle is bringing in and winning this with is really a statement from the judges, in my opinion, saying, okay, muscle, muscle, muscle. And interestingly enough, look at the conditioning, okay? You know, it almost would appear that Giselle has a little bit less conditioning than Cass. She definitely does, and maybe even than Lily, okay? So Lily brought in conditioning too. There's always conditioning. You want to bring conditioning. You want to be right on point with it, though. If you bring too much in, you can look too lean compared to other athletes. Plus, it will hinder your muscle, right? The stuff you have to do to diet down enough to get to that level and how long it takes and all that will take some muscle off of you. So in my opinion, okay, and keep in mind, you guys, this is just my feedback, my idea, my opinion about these. I was not at the judging table, obviously. I was over here making this video for you. But, you know, in my opinion, judges are saying we want more muscle. And, you know, we're bringing the conditioning to where it should be, which is the softer level of conditioning that it's been spoken about to be. Soft lines, no deep cuts, no striations, no graininess, okay, that you would see in some of the other women's divisions that are leaner. And you'll see that in every you know, of these athletes' physiques where they're bringing it. Some just brought more than others and some less, and that's what I think kind of really tied it all together. All right, last shot I want to look at just to re-highlight this for you. Posing is so important, ladies and gentlemen. If you are out there and you're taking notes right now, make sure you build your glutes, build your upper glutes, pose, and stay in your dang improvement season long enough to have enough muscle, because that is going to be key. All right, so granted, you know, there's about 1 billion shots out there of you know, these classes, so some of these athletes may or may not have been in their entire pose, but we're seeing some differences here in the posing, which makes a big difference in how you place too. And remember, the first athlete to kind of get into that pose is going to be the one that judges are going to see first, okay? So if some, let's say Cass, maybe she's not rotating enough, right? I mean, that's apparent. Maybe she was still setting up. Well, Giselle's already locked and loaded, and she's you know, saying I'm the winner to the judges in that situation. And, you know, over here, we got Lily, arm a little bit, shoulder not in the right spot. This looks a little bit off to me. You know, it could have been, posing could have been better for her, and she could have placed, you know, I mean, she's getting third. It's great placing. Could have maybe contested even for a second, though. And, you know, that's the difference of these outcomes. Like when you pose, the training, the nutrition, all that stuff is important, but posing is all the judges see. I say this all the time. This is what brings the shape. This is what brings it all together. You know, everything that the judges need to see to score you accurately comes from the posing. They don't really care how you dieted or how you trained or how many sets of leg press you did to get here. They want to see it on stage. And you could honestly do a prep perfectly, but not nail your posing, and that will take away your placings on stage. So make sure you're posing. And again, here for the criteria, we're still seeing everything the same. A little bit too lean, I think. Cass brought it just not in the right spot. You know, lost some muscle, I think. Just not standing up to size on Giselle either way. And across the board, that's what we kind of see in this call out. So really awesome to see where wellness is kind of heading. Now, before you click out, I'm going to go down to the lower call out just for a second, because I just want to talk about the direction that it's not going. So we're talking about more muscle, being on par with conditioning, maybe athletes getting too lean, going to place different ways. We get to see a little bit more of that down here, and I'm not going to take as long. So don't you click out on me. Hang out with me. Hang out with Coach Ryan. Learn something. All right. And whoa, we almost lost the whole thing. We're going to be right here talking about, again now, a fun fact. Another athlete that I used to coach, Alyssa over here. I coached her for years, actually. It's cool to see how far she's come up and how she's up here now. She's at this competition, and that's great. Let's talk about these placings, though. And we're moving into the fifth, the 6th through the 10th, basically, at this point. So here we are. Basically, what we're going to see here is a lot of the same stuff, so I'm not going to go too in depth, but you'll see some athletes coming in a little bit too lean here. Different types of posing that maybe just didn't work for them as much. One that was kind of, a lot of people I know love Rant. She came in a little bit off for the show, and she's taken home actually 7th out of 10. So it's a posing thing for me. This pose doesn't look great on her. She's kind of landing in this kind of, posing again, ladies and gentlemen, is so important, okay? And then I did want to touch on Alyssa here. She has great muscle, great structure, too much upper body, okay? Could be some posing tweak, but this is also, in my opinion, too much muscle just in the lat and the shoulders and everything else. That will not help you score in wellness if you look symmetrical. If you look at this, you can see this, this look up and down is too symmetrical, I think, in a lot of situations. And that's probably part of how she landed. She's placing 10th at this competition. So that's something to think about, okay? Just the muscle and making sure you're not symmetrical, making sure you have the lower body. But also, we're just not going to see as much muscle density on a lot of these athletes here as you are in the top 4. So again, I'm going to hammer that home. Judges want muscle. Make sure you're nailing your posing. That's what we're looking at. And the back post says it all. This is where you get to see, okay, just totally a lot of variances in conditioning. Not conditioned here enough for Alyssa, but it's probably because she just needs to build more, honestly, needs more muscle. Jennifer over here, who took actually 5th, we didn't really get to talk too much about her, but she's fitting right along with the first top call out we went through. Makes sense as how she was 5th. Rayanne over here, some things are off, needs more glutes, stuff like that. So realistically, I don't want to go too deep into all this, but I'm just saying this is when we get to see individual classes like this, where we got some of the top people competing, and you see how they turn out, it makes a big difference. It's a statement from the judges saying, hey, we're shaping the division. This is what we want to see. And what I'm seeing, what I'm getting across the board, is muscle. So make sure you're training hard, make sure you're building, make sure you're bringing it through, and you're nailing that posing. And if you need help with anything, you guys know what we do. We prep people. I'm talking about 3 athletes I used to coach in this whole thing. So if you need help with wellness, you want to get a wellness physique, you want to get where you want to be, or you just want to experience what it's like to train like a wellness competitor, I got a free trial on my website. You can check that out. It's free. It's always been free. It'll always be free. You go there. It's a free trial. You get to experience workouts for your goals, things like that. Get coaching, just like our athletes, free for 7 days. So strongly encourage you to hit that up. It's a link in the bio. It's probably popping up somewhere. Even if you don't do that, which is crazy, please make sure you subscribe to me, all right? Because a lot of you watching, and I want to keep helping you, but not getting the subscribers that, we should be building. Don't make me cry, guys, all right? Thanks for watching. Coach Rye is out.